of the circle of love, invoke the one who created our life everywhere. We honor all paths that lead to the remembrance of your holy presence. We ask your guidance to help us remember, to live and breathe our oneness. We ask you to ignite within our being the remembrance of the solar heart, the conscious living of your presence. From many hearts to one heart, to our solar heart, we come home to thee. From many hearts to one heart, to our solar heart, we come home to thee. From many hearts to one heart, to our solar heart, we come home to thee.
This whole conference will be about lighting the spark or relighting the spark within us and actually getting a hold of that innate knowledge and wisdom that we came here to do. You know, we've all been told we're not our jobs, we're not our cars, we're not our condos, and we're not our relationships. Yet we have picked those avenues to experience and to remember that we're here to just be the representatives of God made manifest. So that's, in essence, what you will be hearing throughout the whole week. We're asking you to remember who you are. Remember why you're here. We're in this magnificent process of transformation at this time, and I'm delighted and honored to be on the planet with you in this day and age where these exciting things are happening.
I invite you to go deep within your being to a place that you know very well, a place that the ancients called the temple of the soul. It's the body that has carried you into this room. And in this temple, I will invite you to allow yourself to remember. There's a seed that you planted for yourself long ago. And it's a seed that you've kept safe through the life experience for a time that you would know. You would call upon that seed. You would call the seed a memory. Each time you look into the eyes of a child and you see the innocence of that child, that feeling that comes within you, that's part of that memory. And when that child looks at you and wraps his or her tiny arms around you and says simply, I love you, that feeling, that's part of the memory. The ancients called this place within you, within your temple of the soul, your Holy of Holies. So I ask you to go into your Holy of Holies and allow yourselves to remember that feeling. Because that feeling, that is your true nature, that is your essence. It is the feeling of compassion. It is the feeling that brought each of you into this world and carried you to this room. It's the common thread that links each of our hearts together. And it is that thread, the feeling of the solar heart, that you and I will remember and awaken. There is a word for that feeling, for the force that binds all of its creation. And that word, almost universally, is simply the word spirit. And there's a song, the tradition of the Hopi, for the spirit that binds all of its creation. It's a song of a very special spirit. It's the spirit of compassion. Welcome, Tonkin, on Walk on Tonkin, on Shimalaya. Walk on Tonkin, on Shimalaya. We journey Walk on Tonkin, on Shimalaya. Spirit of compassion, show us the way. Show us the way. Show us the way. There is a sense of time speeding up. We are experiencing radical changes in sleep patterns, almost universally. People are having dreams, powerful, vivid, lucid dreams, maybe 2 or 3 nights in a row, and then the dreams will stop. There is a common dream that we are having among us. It is a dream of a time of tremendous change. We know something's happening, we sense it. It is through the gift of your relationships and the gift of emotion and feeling that comes to you in those relationships, those gifts are the gifts that will gracefully allow you and carry you through this tremendous time of change that the ancients identified as the shift of the ages. As we go through all of this technology, is that no matter how far out there we go with our instruments, and no matter how far into the atom we delve with our instruments, we're discovering that there's a force, there's something there that cannot be engineered, and we're hard-pressed to measure it. Something that keeps leading us back to ourselves. The ancients remembered you in their dreams. They had not lived you yet, and they remembered you. They wrote entire volumes, texts, dedicated to you at this time in history. And it is this generation, with a power beyond their knowing, that would not only live this time, but they would bridge a time that the ancients called no time. You're that generation. And it's no accident that you're here on this world right now, here in this room right now. They had a name for you who would live in this time, and they called you, you who walk between the worlds. That's who you are. You who walk between the worlds. You, living in a world of polarity, have asked yourselves, by virtue of being in this world, to transcend polarity while you still live in the polarity. To move beyond polarity. To move beyond hate in a world that has learned to hate in the past. To move beyond fear in a world that has learned to fear in the past. If you define human, as we always have genetically, a certain number of genes and chromosomes, a certain makeup of amino acids, if that is truly our definition of human, then what I can say to you in all sincerity and all honesty is this, is that within our cities, within our communities, possibly within your families, within your own homes, possibly within your own body, that there is a new race of human that is being birthed among us right now. Something is changing within them. And that change is allowing them tremendously powerful immune systems, tremendously powerful cellular regeneration. It's allowing them the opportunity to live the potential of human. And you say, well, what is different about these people than about everyone else? Are they taking supplements? Are they eating differently? They may, and it's probably not necessary. Because what is different about these people is that they are allowing themselves the gift of human emotion in its fullness. Could something so simple allow us to shift chemically, to shift what's happening within our bodies, to change our genetic makeup and allow us to gracefully move through tremendous times of change in our lives? The ancient texts say the answer is yes. It is precisely that.
The solar heart has to do with the changes that Greg was talking about in terms of the shift that's coming. We all know it's happening. I mean, that's why you're here. You know these changes are occurring. I'm sure that for most of you by now there isn't any doubt we're in the middle of an immense change that's happening on Earth. And we're never going to be the same. Not ever. We all have different views of what the world is and what the reality is. Every one of us has a different point of view, and we all have different ways of seeing things, of feelings, of how we move through life. And all the different religions have different names for what the shift is and what it's all about. But there's one point of view that is universal, and that is that, well, at least in terms of what the reality is itself, whatever this reality is, whatever we're seeing out here into this world, or whatever we're bringing back in, we interpret it in different ways. As you know, every religion has its viewpoint on what is the truth and what isn't the truth. As more and more people begin to tune into a person's reality, so 2, 3, 4, more and more people begin to link into a particular way of seeing whatever it is, and eventually perhaps a planet will do it, and then perhaps a system, and etc. going out. As that gets bigger and bigger, and this has of course already happened, these are what we refer to as consciousness levels. There are many, many levels of consciousness, many interpretations. We all are on one right now. We look out there and we see stars, planets, galaxies. We look inside and we see atoms, etc., and all that. We see that because we believe it, and we all believe it together. There are other people that walk this world right now that do not see what you see. One of those peoples would be referred to as the original peoples of this world, the aboriginals, the native peoples from all over the world. We think that they see everything the same way, but they don't. It's not even close. And if you look at their internal makeup in terms of how they're constructed through their DNA and this kind of thing, their chromosome levels, it isn't the same as ours. It's different. They're literally a different kind of makeup of a human being than what we are. And we're about to metamorphosize into something that is different again, where our genetic makeup is about to change. We're in the process of this occurring right now. And there's different names for all of this, but there's a new way of seeing it we're coming into. This is what it's really all about right now, but that's not the end. It just keeps going. These waves of levels of understanding keep going. We are on a return cycle now, back to becoming one spirit, one mind, just oneness, totally, from which we began in the first place. There is a cycle. Life is constantly cycling up through these consciousness levels and then back down through the consciousness levels. 521 years ago from right now, the calendar indicated that our Earth would go into a time of darkness, and that we would remain in that time of darkness for 520 years until the spring equinox of 1995, from which, according to the writings, a new kind of light would come from the sun that had never been on this Earth before, and even from a scientific point of view, had never been on this Earth before. But it would begin to, a literal kind of light would be coming onto the Earth, and from that time forth, the transformation would begin to speed up extremely fast as we went from one level of consciousness into another level of consciousness. Our sun is a hydrogen sun. To us, it's a portal, and it is a holographic image of all that is. And what is inside the sun is exactly the same as everything that is outside the sun. But thinking of it from a third-dimensional scientific mind, it's a big ball of hydrogen, and and these hydrogen atoms, because of the gravitational fields that exist within such a mass, the hydrogen atoms are coming together in something called fusion, and when they do, they produce the light that comes out to this planet. This light, also from a scientific point of view, is the light from which all life on this planet came. Of course, they're not aware of life coming from higher dimensions coming down and things of this kind of nature, but looking at all the plant life and all the animals and everything that's there, they trace it straight back to the light of the sun. This nuclear explosion up in the sky has just been continuing on and on and on, and so the helium is building up and building up and building up and being created. At one point, the helium ignites, and it goes from a hydrogen sun into a helium sun. This is what is occurring now from a scientific point of view. But according to the Mayans, the time is now when that light, which we see as helium light, is beginning to come and literally strike the surface of the earth. There's been a big change in the last year, a huge change, and we're moving a lot faster than we were before. You've got to feel it. It's triggering us and urging us to become more than what we know we are, to become something different, greater than what we are. And we're doing it. We are doing this. And we're doing it really good, by the way. We're doing it really good. This light is going to affect a certain aspect of our population more than others. It's going to affect the children more than us. There's coming a time, and it's happening right now, when the children are going to exceed and go beyond where we are. And I see this place where the children of the world begin to link and become one and lead us out. It is our belief that there is this new light that is coming, that is here now, that is striking and has been for 1 year. And my prayer to you is that you recognize the situation of what is coming and allow this to come in, to not resist it, but to allow this light to come in and to flow with the changes, the rapid changes that are about to be occurring. And we're never, ever, ever going to be the same again. Like right now, we're about to move into a much greater level of awareness, which will, relative to where we are now, we won't even remember who we were anymore, because we will become something so much greater. At some point in this remembering process, you'll come back to this place where you will be the one that was the one that stepped into this creation in the first place. And you will have a choice. It's always the same choice. You can either step outside of the reality, because you'll know exactly what to do when you're there, and you can return back to that part of wholeness that you originally were, or, and you can't even talk about that. That's really beyond words. It's beyond the beyond, the beyond, the beyond that the Tibetans talk about. Or, from that point of view, you will know in all that you are that everything that is you, and you may choose to stay. And if you do, that's called Melchizedek. And immediately then you begin to descend, or not necessarily immediately, but at one point you will choose to descend and go down into the realms because of compassion and love and understanding, and to fulfill the nature of who you are. The truth is we are everything, and we are everything, even that there just isn't anything outside of us at all. But it's a perception. All life everywhere, without exception, is going through enormous changes. I don't care if you're a little beetle on the ground. There's big changes going on within us because everything is moving. Everything is changing. We're in a school. That's all this is. We're in a huge experiment, and this is a school, and we choose these things for purposes so that we can understand what it is that we need to know or to learn. No one's going to be left behind or discarded or forgotten or anything else. Nobody. Because God, the Spirit of all life, and there is only one, is the same one that's in everyone. We are in a free will situation, and we are being left alone so that we can manipulate ourselves and work within this, but no one's going to get left alone. I can only say that everyone is loved, absolutely everyone.
I am ecstatic to be here with you today, and I am honored and I am humbled to be with such amazing, sincere, willing people who take 5 days out of what I'm sure are very busy lives to focus on what is really, truly important right now, and that is our consciousness and the one. We all came to this group as individuals, left our homes, got in our cars or our airplanes and came here. And we also came here as a group. And my sense is that we've done the same thing on our planet. We all came here individually with our own personal mission, our own ideas, our own special magic, and we also came as a group. And so we are a tremendous tribal metaphor here. But we do ask at these events how many people did come to the planet for chocolate. How many people followed dolphins right in? We really are a tribe. I certainly have spent a lot of time in the water with dolphins. And one of the things, the most, of all the really far out experiences I've had in the water with dolphins, the one thing they always have for all of us is they show us how to be a tribe, how to be a pod. That's their main transmission, in my opinion. I was in a very intense eye lock with a dolphin. They actually loved that. And I asked this dolphin sort of telepathically to give me a sense of what it was like to be him. And the feeling I received back was that it was impossible for him to make that distinction because he is in us. That connection that we get to have with each other, where we see beyond our clothes and our status line and our jobs and our whatever, to who we really truly are, and to how really sacred and special we are, and how every one of us agreed to be here. And yet I know that we are in a very, very sacred and special way, really truly covered in our missions. And these sentient inner beings that cover us are very close to us and are closer than ever.
So what I choose to do now is you just get comfortable, lie down and breathe a little bit. I'm going to read the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. Nechwe sewianach, aikana duashmea abbara'a, haulan lachma, sunkanan yaumana, washwoklan haubain, aikana dachanan, shwachen el hayawain, ula ta'alan el misiona, ella pasam men bisha, motol dilachi malkutha, ukaila, uchish bochta, la'alam, almin, amen. And this is a literal translation into English. Our Father, who is throughout the universe, let your name be set apart. By set apart, they just meant to hold it outside of worldliness. Let your kingdom, counsel, and advice come. Let us hear your guidance. Let your desire be, as in the universe, also on earth. Give us bread for our necessities this day. Bread meaning every food, spiritual, mental, physical needs. And free us from our offenses, as also we have freed our offenders. Do not let us enter our worldliness, as in let us not be misdirected by materialism, but set us free from error. For belongs to you the kingdom, the power, and the song throughout all ages. We seal this prayer in faith, trust, and truth.
I'm going to talk about a simple thing that's more important than Windows 95. My particular 1 hour segment is to introduce to us possibilities of easily adjusting our consciousness through language, whatever we accept and consent to, and the true state of imagination, which I believe is portals. The Hopi language does not relate to space or time at all. The Hopi language, he said, doesn't even have a word for now, because they can't get out of now in the pure Hopi consciousness. They can't get out of now to have a word to get back into now by saying now. Pretty simple. All I got to do to write my thesis is completely change my consciousness. At that point, I said to myself, I think in words like I was over there yesterday. Anybody else ever think that way? Let's see, yesterday, what? Yeah? Anybody? Good. Just checking. 5 people. Good. Studying the Hopi language, I realized, and it opened up a cavern within me of awareness requirement, that, hold it, this tribe, which was completely committed to peace and union and oneness, couldn't even think about a rock as if it was separate from itself. So, from 1968 until now, I, Bob, the human being walking on the planet, have been a sponge for what is language. The context is this: speak only that which you choose to come into manifestation now and continuously. Thank you. Okay, how many of you would like to have every single word that you say happen? 1. The rest of you going, oh, maybe not. Not a good idea. How many of you have ever said, it blew my mind? Splat. Yes? It just kills me. The truth is our words are manifesting, and they're manifesting more quickly and more instantaneously. Language has within itself a very powerful directing property. Energy follows thought, yes? Scripture says, what you put your attention upon, that ye become. Decree a thing thus, and it shall be established unto you. Now, when I began to read, I learned these things through just, they came into my awareness or whatever. The word decree, what does that word mean? I began to look in all the different ways that I have to look, the Strong's Concordance or the whatever. And I finally found in the Aramaic, through the Lambda Bible, which is Lambda translated from the translation of the Bible, through Aramaic, which is a little bit different channel coming down, and that's the language that Christ spoke. The word decree means to speak with feeling. We have been using a language system of self-sabotage and separation and disunity and death up until maybe even this moment. Language is very powerful. It directs energy, it shapes energy, it defines our reality. Scripture says, by your word you shall be justified, and by your word you shall be condemned. A man or woman who offendeth not in word, the same as a perfect man or woman, and is able to bridle the whole body. Now, even bigger than that, for me now, is the idea in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, I'm looking at the tense of that even easier. The Word was God. In other words, that obviously God is all things, and God is still within the Word, and how many of you have decreed your reality whether you know it or not? How many choose to learn how to consciously communicate your heart's desire and bring it into manifestation moment to moment to moment? So this is an upgrade. I'm reminding you of certain language. Everyone say, I want. Now really say it. I want. How's it feel? The word want means desire without having. I love the guttural, hey, how many of you have been wanting your divine partner? Probably living in the next room is your divine partner, only you guys, miss each other like magnets at the same pole. Because you're staying in the consciousness of want. How many are choosing to get closer to your, whatever it is, your divine choice? Closer to? How many of you have already gotten closer and closer and closer? Doesn't mean you have it. Is that true? Now, eventually, what begins to happen is you'll find that these words are attached to our feelings. Is that true? How many of you have been really wanting something? I mean, really wanting it. Truthfully, honestly, I really want that. And you have emotion, and you have memories of not getting it somehow. And really wanting it. I really want it. Or I can't. I really can't find it. And you can prove that. How many of you have ever said, I don't know, and I can prove it? So how many of you have been walking around saying things like, isn't that beautiful? Well, you just said it is not that beautiful. And people usually walk around saying, yes, it's not. We have been using a language that keeps us, in the past cell form we've been using it, it keeps us in separation and duality. It continually proves the illusion that we are separate from the I am. How many of you have ever used the Lord, the laws, the I am's name in vain? Like, I am toxic. So the first thing I'm sharing with you is that language is powerful. Very, very powerful. And if we are God, or one with our Creator, did our Creator use language like, I got to create light? I should create light. Therefore, I must create light. So maybe if I could just get somebody over here to help me out and a few angels, maybe then I could be good enough so that light would manifest. God just said, let there be light. It's cool, let there be light. How many of us are moving toward that? Yeah? I'm moving toward the possibility that someday I can actually be a divine angel. How many of you already are that which you desire to be? Everyone say, I should. Really say it. Get used to it. I should. Say it again. I should. How's it feel? Pretty shitty. Everyone say, I must. Really say it. Come on, play it. It's your words. I must. How many of you have a little, how many of you tell yourself I should and inside, hey, get out of my face? So we are all spiritual beings. Is that true? How many of you want to be more spiritual? How many choose to be more spiritual? More? How many choose to be conscious and clear and definite? And speak in first person personal here now? And enjoy your outcome more and more every day? With ease? More and more every day? All right, so how many get in the essence of my communication? How many choose to? Yes? How many of you are excited to get your will and your spirit, your inspiration, your breath back in line? Yes. And to live an inspired life. Well, entheos, enthusiasm, is one of the things we want to talk about. I share that because we're sharing this with many, many people now, and we have instructors who are doing this, thank God. Words, emotion, feelings, and thoughts are a unity. There may be more involved in that, and for right now, thoughts, words, and emotions are involved in shaping our reality. If you change your words, you can simultaneously, I'll say it as a potential, change feelings and change thoughts. If I say, I don't know, and I don't know, is that true? That's true. Got it? If I say, I choose to know, even though I don't know, is that true? Can we find a language? This is my whole focus. Can I find a language that's honest, it's true, it's here now, and it's my highest choice, and it's creative? Yes. So instead of saying, I don't know, I choose to know, or I can know, or God in me knows. God revealed to me the truth now. Thank you very much. I come from already knowing. Now that I know, how do I feel? I can even get into the imagined state. It's up to us to operate our system. Could words have power? A lot of power. Could they actually be God manifesting through our vocal cords? Is it energy? Is God energy? Is there any energy source that's outside of God? All right, so if that's true, speak only that which you choose to have come into manifestation now and continuously. Thank you. Language, or the creator, or the I am that I am, is a creation of what is instead of what isn't. And we, on a common language, I'll affirm in the past, have been talking about or decreeing what isn't into our isness, which eventually creates death. If I say I choose, even the conscious word choose, to not be sad anymore, what am I decreeing into my reality? Not being, which is death, as we know it here. How many of you are willing to take the authority, authorship in your life? How many of us, I'm in it with you, how many of us are willing to say, all right, I am an instrument of vibration, of holy breath, of spirit, inspiration. And by my will to speak my love, that which is true, I give myself permission to set myself into the state of freedom of ownership. Instead of being focused on being a human doing in order to have so that I can be, I give myself permission to be and then do and have. Everyone said, choose to make this easy. Even if it's hard, can you still choose to make it easy? I mean, look, we get to start somewhere. Is that true? Have you ever resisted a particular type of person, and who comes and sits right next to you? It's like the idea that, it's like whatever we put our attention on, we have. Is that true? Something, if you don't like it about yourself, and you go, oh God, I got X, Y, or Z, like I got a zit or something on my cheek, or, so God, I hope nobody notices it. You have 200 people that day that say what? Ah, puberty again, huh? Ah. Look, folks, we get to operate this system. Is that true? And I believe, and I know the rest of this team believes, that something major is going on here. It is imperative that we as a team realize that what we're consenting to, where we place ourselves in consciousness, what we are saying is defining our reality as we do it, as we speak, as we think, as we feel. And it is imperative to take our attention off what we don't want or what we resist, and very specifically, thank you, and personally put it on what we do choose. To surrender the not beings, the not doings, the not havings, the dislike, the don't want us, the get rid ofs, because our attention's still on it, and put it firmly, comfortably, in honesty and truth on what we do choose.
I thought I would share with you my first, what I would consider message from God. It's real funny about how when you're younger, maybe now too, when you're younger, how powerful it feels to have everything you want. And all the times that I had everything I wanted, I was never happy, so I kept wanting more things. And things would fill that need at first for a week, for a month, and then it became for a day, and then it became for an hour. So pretty soon I was going overseas to Hong Kong and China and Taiwan, buying merchandise, and I was doing the POP, the point of purchase, and selling it, and became very successful real quick. And then all my world started changing. And when it changes, it goes so fast, you don't know what to do about it. And what happens is you apply all the old methods to correcting it. So then it goes really fast. And one time I was flying back from Hong Kong, and that flight is a long flight as you come into California. Then all of a sudden this voice, and this was the first time that I believe I really connected to what I perceived was my higher self or God or whatever. At the time, it was God. And it said, you will do a hologram of Jesus Christ. Then you will look at that hologram, and because when you look at a hologram, it uses both sides of your mind, they will remember who they are. End of transmission. I really don't like end of transmission. How many of you feel the same way? So they gave me the money, and I started doing this. So here's what I thought. This was back in 1982, 1983. What I thought I would do is, I got the message from God, and I got the money. I got God's money. So all I have to do is go find a God artist, and that artist and God will channel through that artist, and I will get this hologram. Now, one of the things that was happening to me during this period of time, it lasted about a year before I got, 9 months before I got the third prototype. But I was having dreams for the first time in my life about outer space. And every night I would go to outer space. I couldn't tell anyone because I live in the business world and I didn't have any metaphysical friends. I didn't even know what they were. I didn't have anybody to talk to. And all of a sudden, every night, here's what happens. I go to sleep. I wake up. I'm walking down this aisle in this spaceship. Everybody's saying hi to me. Hi, hi, hi. I walk into this door. It opens up. There are seats down like a theater style. We sit in the most comfortable chair, and there's about 50 or 60 pictures on the screen that we're watching simultaneously. Who are you going to tell that to? So I do this hologram, and I'm looking at it after, I've looked at it for a long time. In about 2 weeks I've had it, and I'm looking at it, and I turn the hand. So if you look at me, you'll see that his left hand comes out. If you turn the hologram slightly to the side and look in this way, right on his sleeve, you'll see that spaceship. It looks like a barbell, just like this. Well, folks, my dream just became physical in my hologram. How can that be that what I'm dreaming becomes physical? Then the next thing that happened in that hologram, if you look at the thorns, they've turned into dolphins. So what's happening with that hologram, as I change, the hologram changes. What I'm saying is the universe is holographic, and every time you change within here, the universe changes. Well, let me give you what I believe we're here on earth to do. I believe we're here on earth to master all the conditions of unconditional love. And what would happen if you were to experience every single aspect of creation on earth? So I believe that each one of you have the most compassion for yourself based on all the experiences you've had. You have the most compassion for yourself and others based on your experiences. I believe you have the most judgment and charge based on things that you've never experienced or ever felt. So what would happen if we came here lifetime after lifetime to master all forms of creation to where we could have compassion for all creators? If I ask you what would you like to have most in a relationship, you'd say, I'd love to have somebody who would co-create with me. I didn't realize what I was doing as being a co-creator is judging another person's creation based on how I thought they should create. And I believe we're backwards. I believe we've come in to be creators and then to be co-creators. So we've come in to create and experience all aspects of creation that we can do on earth, to master compassion for all creators, to move into being a creator to where we can co-create. What would you say if I said to you that I believe that you're using all of your energy to keep yourself from taking your power? All right. So right now, folks, we're going to do something, and you're going to be 1,000 times more powerful than you are a minute ago. Now remember, the next thoughts you have, you move to instantaneous creation. Be sure you're clear with all of your thoughts, because the next thought you have, your reality will physically change, and if you have any monsters in your mind, they're going to be very ugly sitting there looking at you in a moment. Instantaneous creation. Is that not where we're moving to? Wouldn't it be good to do this creating now where there's just a lapse in time between your thoughts and reality? I believe we're like this. We're these giant, amazing energy machines that are going on. Now I'm going to share with you the most valuable information that I have accumulated over my 12 or 13 years on this path. Apparently, we're creating our realities. That's what they say. It appears so, because every time you're having a thought, it's starting to show up at your door. It's starting to worry you a little bit. It's starting to call you on the phone. It's starting to go faster and faster. What would happen if every time a situation happened to you, that you could look at it and recognize that you created it? What would happen if you knew what your issues were, and every time a situation occurred, you realized, I just created that to attract to me somebody physically that would mirror my reality so I could understand myself a little bit better. And you said to yourself, oh, that's my issue of humility. Or that's my issue of abandonment, or betrayal, or receiving. So I believe that each one of you probably have about 4 or 5 active issues that you're creating now. Anything that you created in the last week, look at it and you'll look at what the issue is. When you create it, you'll just step and you'll look at it and you'll go, subconscious, unconscious mind that is creating this reality, I know what that is. It's my issue of abandonment. And every time I become conscious of my subconscious creating reality, it shifts. Because maybe all you're supposed to do is recognize we're creators. It's fun. We're allowed to attract to us reflections of ourselves. We do that energetic without even thinking about it. Our subconscious mind will look out in this audience, and I will find somebody who will mirror exactly what I need to learn within myself. That's the reason you continue to attract the same things over and over to you. It isn't until you recognize what that issue is and understand that within yourself that it stops doing that. Can you imagine if we're using 90% of our energy to create these realities, if we became conscious of it, where would all that energy go to? Creating what you want to create. The next time you're in a situation, you recognize it, and it'll allow you to step back, and it will allow you to witness what you've created. And you can have a choice to whether you want to participate or watch. The watching part, I believe, is called unity consciousness, to where you're observing a creation and having choices to where you want to participate or observe. So I ended up losing all physical things, fell to the side. And then I ended up taking the weirdest path that I believe one can take spiritually. All the things that I'd ever created no longer had any interest to me. Owning things, fast things, flying things, rock and roll things. But when I got into this path, and all of a sudden I started working with energy, or what people said in their minds, it was the most amazing thing that ever happened. Every single thing that every one of us are going to tell you today is true. And there's also probably another 1,000 truths that go with that. It's each one of our perceptions of that. What's important, if we're here to experience our creation, is to allow another creator to create without judging their creation, without wanting to make them like you. They're absolutely perfect. And unless somebody asks me for help, I will have love for them and compassion for what they've created. And I will not come into their space. Everything is right here with us. Once we let go of our ideas and be in that flow, everything can flow through us. It is those ideas that we hold on to, that your beliefs limit those realities. And those are called changes. And that's what we're going through right now. The harder you hold on to something, the more difficult it's going to be letting go. What if I was to say the fourth, fifth, and every other dimension was right here at this time? We're in a holographic universe, and everything happening all the time within yourself. When you love yourself and have compassion for others and love for others, it will allow it will allow a creator to create, and it's the most beautiful thing that exists on this planet we call Earth.
That was incredible. So what I say tonight is not as important as what you experience in yourself. And so my hope is that the words I say and the sounds that come forth might touch you and empower you. That's good. It's very, very, it's so subtle. The brain is a pattern perceiver, and as soon as it gets something at the threshold of perception, it begins to incorporate that into its neurology. What I do is I work off the energy and the emotion of the group I'm working with. So this is as much a discovery for me as it is for you. I think that there's something, well, I know there's something happening on the planet where people are waking up in the most unusual places and situations. More and more people are coming online, waking up that there's something profound and significant about life. And there's a waking up process that's occurring. And I've made it sort of a personal hobby to study how people have wakened up. And what I mean by awakening is simply realizing that life is sacred, that it is profound, and that it is a gift and a tremendous opportunity. And people wake up to that reality in very different and unique situations. Sometimes it comes through an illness where they're confronted with death. Sometimes it's a loss of a relationship that brings them face to face with they can't run things the way they used to do. Sometimes it's a career change. Sometimes it comes out of the blue. when I was an undergraduate student at the University of North Carolina. And I, at that time, had been doing study of the different mystical traditions of the world and practicing the practices of yoga and Islam and Christianity and all the different methods to explore what was happening. Because these traditions all have inner technologies. And if you use the inner technology, you will have an experience. The wake-up call that I want to touch on is when I went to California to learn how to use sound to affect consciousness. And I went to study with a brilliant person, and it cost thousands and thousands of dollars to go to this thing, and I was still a student. So I sold everything I had to get the money together and borrowed money. And I sold my record collection that tells you how long ago it was. And my car, you know, and everything. So I go to California, and when I get there, I discover, to my horror, that there is a part of this guy who's a charlatan. But you will find that sometimes the people who are the most powerful influence in your life are not necessarily the way you would like them to be. And there were some things that were out of integrity with him. So I went out on the beach and I started running because I was really pissed. And off about 5 miles away was this power plant. And as I was running, the power plant became a symbol for my power and how I had always put my power outside myself. So I'm like staggering on the beach, and I stop about, I don't know, half a mile from the power plant because I can't run anymore. I'm totally in an altered state. And I demand from God the answer to why I was brought out to California, because I did it on guidance. I went inside and meditated and said, am I supposed to go to California and do this program? Yes. Okay. So I get out there, and it's like, this isn't what I expected. And I've been gypped, and I followed your instructions. What happened? So I started yelling at God, because one of the things I've discovered is sometimes God will answer if you yell. But before I yelled out loud, you guessed it, I looked around on the beach in my delirious state to see if anybody was there. There was nobody on the beach because it was like twilight. A lot of things seemed to happen for me at twilight. And so I'm on the beach yelling at God, I demand to know why you brought me to California. I followed what you said. You tell me right now why I'm here. And then it escalated. Why am I on this planet? You tell me right now, why am I on this planet? I have no idea. You better tell me right now. So I staggering back a little bit, and I swear to God, I turn around. Now, logically, looking back at the experience, I think what happened was that before I got there, somebody had drawn a big heart in the sand and written a message to their boyfriend. But in that moment, after I had asked God to tell me the answer right now why I was on this planet, I turned around, and in the sand was written, I love Tom. What got me through that training was loving myself, and that was the first steps in that. And what I'm finding as I go through this process of my own life is that the more I love myself and the more I love the unlovable places in myself, the more lovable people become. It's really weird. It's like a direct relationship. Well, I used to be, certain people really pissed me off. I don't notice, those people don't really piss me off anymore, because I've loved something in myself that I could not love before. And I'm not saying there are not any people that don't piss me off, because there still are. But I know that they're reflecting back to me something in me that I'm pissed off at. So I've just learned that love is the peace.
There is something happening on nearly every planet throughout our solar system. Our scientists know this. They're measuring it. Our sun, for example, our sun is going through tremendous shifts. Throughout our solar system, planets are doing things they didn't used to do. In nearly every country in the world that produces a cereal grain crop, we began seeing these mysterious and beautiful glyphs, originally called crop circles because they were simple circles. Now they are so complex they are called pictograms. The traditions of the indigenous peoples throughout the world, through their calendars and their oral and written traditions, all indicate that this time in our lives, these days are the days that are unlike any other days in the history of earth and in the history of those who live on the earth. We live in a time that the Mayans called no time. The Mayans actually called it no time. And it's interesting because this time is also referenced in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the time in between the times. This is the time that we're living in. And what they say is that in this time, that both earth and the humans living upon the earth will have the opportunity. They don't call it a test. Only we call this a test. They call it a tremendous opportunity to allow ourselves to become something more than we have been in any time in recorded human history. What's happening to the earth? In the last few months, scientists have told us that the center of the earth is not a sphere. It's not a sphere. It's a crystalline structure that they are calling a dodecahedron, made out of iron, 98% iron. It is Earth's rotation around this iron that creates the magnetic fields of our planet. And the magnetic fields are very important to you and I. There's something happening to those fields right now. And it's something that began to happen 2,000 years ago. How long do you think it takes for the magnetic fields from any one point on Earth to move all the way around back to the same point? 2,000 years is what they're saying. Geologists say that it takes about 2,000 years for the magnetic fields of Earth to move from one point all the way around and come back to the point where they were before. What that means is that you and I are just about to live the identical magnetic fields of Earth as they were 2,000 years ago when Christ was here walking among us. Isn't that interesting? There's a fundamental vibration. There's a heartbeat that is part of Earth. That heartbeat, that fundamental pulse, traditionally has been about 7.8 cycles per second. Well, in the mid-1980s, again, interesting time, right around the time that the sun began to go through the tremendous shifts, around the time we began to measure new signals coming to us from somewhere in the cosmos, this number began to increase. And it went from 7.8 to 8 to 8.23 to about 8.6. At the end of 1995, it was about 8.6 cycles per second. Now, researchers I've spoken to in January of 1996 are saying now that that number is at 9 cycles per second. So this fundamental heartbeat is increasing as we go through this week. It is through an ancient science that today we call compassion. Compassion, the science of compassion, is the gift. It's the tool in our lives that allows us to switch the genetic codes in our bodies for graceful transition, for a graceful phase transition.
I met Jungro, and for those that have encountered Jungro's work, it's truly brilliant. What he did for me personally is he, with an eye lock, introduced me to the earth. And what really, really matters, just make this easy, is when we get how holy we are. Right now, that we get that we're holy. And the earth, once we really make that connection that we're holy, and we really see her holiness, we're covered. That was Jesus' teaching. That when you really, really come into a deep unity with the earth, she will cover you like she covers the bird. Birds don't fly around worrying about how they're going to pay their rent. You know? They just know that they're covered and it's out there. The flowers just bloom. And that's for us. That's a consciousness. If you put a plant in the window, what direction does it grow in? It's a consciousness. It's a consciousness. So we can unify with that, and we can do that. And when we make a choice to be that consciousness, we're covered. We're covered. Almighty, indwelling God, instantly,
is there a way that we can be honest, sincere, truthful, first person, here, me, now, and speak from my heart in a conscious, creative way? Yes, there is. And I'll show you how to do it. Let's see if we do it with ease. It is imperative that in your imaginations you are in the picture personally. God's energy is the operating system on this planet. We can have peace right now. Peace is not something you can move toward. It is simply something that exists and can be brought into manifestation by our consciousness. I am now clear in my heart that you are me and I am you. So we're on our way.
This symbol evidently was important to ancient religions all over the world, because you'll find it connected to the ancient religions all over the world. And this, even though it was originally found in Egypt, it's been found, I don't know now, there's I think about 20 countries that we've discovered within. One of the areas that we became aware that they understood that the human body was the measuring stick of the universe was out of Egypt. And Leonardo da Vinci also knew about the flower of life. In fact, this drawing is his. And from the work that they have done, they found that all the instruments that he used, the ones involving wheels, what do you call them? Gears and all that stuff were all based on the relationships in the flower of life. And he made extensive drawings. There's pages and pages and pages around this and the dimensions and aspects that are found inside of there. So this was not unknown then either. And this, which we all know very well, came directly out of that. It's very clear that Leonardo's understanding of this came out of the flower of life when it's just studied from that point of view. And up from there, well, if you go specifically to the beginning of our way of thinking, which many people put back to Pythagoras in the Greek mystery schools, the tetrahedron was fire, the cube was earth, the octahedron was air, the octahedron was water, and the dodecahedron was ether, or as I identify it, as prana. There was no difference between those two things. And the sphere was the void from which everything came from. And everything that we look or touch or feel has a relationship in various balances between those, either as qualities or as geometries. This is again, Leonardo's drawing with a particular relationship around it, which is an energy field that it took many years, but we discovered that was around the body. This is, in present-day terms, it's called a star tetrahedron. It's really like a three-dimensional Star of David. It's just two tetrahedrons, which is the simplest three-dimensional shape in existence, interlocked into one tetrahedron facing down and one tetrahedron facing up. And this relationship does exist around the body. I have been personally able to confirm this through the work of Bob Dratch and the molecular emission scanners, of which we were able to bring this up onto a screen and see these fields. And this is one of the keys to higher consciousness from a Melchizedek point of view. You started out as a sphere, the ovum, and when you divide it again, you divide it into two spheres, and when you went from 2 to 4 cells, those cells arranged themselves into a tetrahedron. And when you went from 4 to 8, they divided into another tetrahedron facing down. And so you actually, in your original 8 cells, were a star tetrahedron in 8 spheres. And there is a tube that runs right down through the center of this field. You actually see this on the very first cell division, where the cell, which is the zygote, the cell forms, a tube forms right down the middle. The genes align themselves, they split in half and align themselves on either side. And at that moment, you have a simplified view of the adult that it'll eventually become, because you would have a sphere with a line down the middle, and you have half of the information on one side and half on the other side. And it's beautiful to see how this works. And so you began as a sphere, you went into a tetrahedron, you became a star tetrahedron, which then automatically becomes a cube, and then the cube slowly turned back into another sphere, and then the sphere moved through itself and became a torus, from which all life forms known pass through those initial steps, and then from there out into all the differentiations, such as a dog or a horse or a cat or anything else like this. And in this core, right there, at the very base of your spine, which is centered actually not at the base of the spine, but in the geometrical center of your body, which is where this tube is located, this is where the original 8 cells are still located from my belief pattern. If you take the human body and you draw a sphere that goes inside of the cube that fits around the length of your body, and you draw another sphere up here where this circle goes into a phi ratio pattern, a golden mean pattern if it's perfect. That sphere right there and that circle right there just happen to be exactly the size of the Earth and the Moon. And I mean exact. It's so close, it's incredible. And so we contain galactic levels within us also. You can prove it mathematically. In the class, you can show that all the formulas, you take the actual diameter of the Earth, you take the circumference of the Earth, the diameter of the Moon, the circumference of the Moon, and they actually are in exact proportions to these things here. Inside the Earth itself are exactly the same geometries that are around you. They're identical. The planets have star tetrahedral fields inside of them. What we're saying is that there's also a dodecahedral field that is around the Earth that actually just encloses it. And this is the one that I'm want you to be aware of, or interest that you're aware of. This is what is called the grids that are around the Earth. There are really millions of these grids. Every single life form that lives on the surface of the Earth, even if there's just 2 little bugs crawling on the ground, and there's only 2 of them, and that's all there is, they have a complex geometrical electromagnetic field that stretches around the entire planet. And they couldn't exist on the surface of the Earth without that grid and without those geometries. There are 3 human grids up there, 3 completely different geometries, totally different in their nature. These millions of grids are reflected in the millions of life forms and species that are on this Earth. You have been you. You personally have existed forever. There has never been a time when you have not been, and there will never be a time when you are not. You are eternal, absolutely eternal. Death is just a transition from one place to another. But your spirit and who you are has always been around, and the life energy that moves through all these other things, such as eagles and cats and lions and all these other forms of life, is just as eternal as you are. This is a set of geometries that are based on the icosahedral dodecahedral relationship in a very specific stellated way. This particular shape, for some of you, appears to be very much like a platonic solid. It only has one edge length, it only has one face, there's only one angle inside of it, and it fits inside of a sphere, except that there is another layer down here that doesn't touch the outer sphere, which is one of the definitions of a platonic solid. And this golden grid, and it is a golden energy of light that stretches around the world, was created by the ascended masters. The grid was originally created in our past naturally, but because of something that we did at the time that we call Atlantis, this grid was destroyed, and it had to be reconstructed. And so they did exactly that. They reconstructed the grid. It took them 13,000 years, and in 1989 it was completed. We couldn't go to the next level of consciousness until it was completed. There are 72 orders to the Great White Brotherhood. And the reason that there are 72 orders to the Great White Brotherhood is because this structure is made out of 60 tetrahedrons, and it has 12 points of the icosahedron that touch the outer circle. And that 60 plus 12 is 72. And each order of the Great White Brotherhood for the last 13,000 years, except they actually have evolved, they did not all come in at one point. Each one of them has a different purpose in bringing this Christ grid out to the earth. It is their primary goal, because once it's there, then we can become it. So it's there. It's really there now. Many people are consciously connecting to it. Like, we're getting really, really close to almost every single soul on the planet Earth right now has decided that it is time to leave this way of being, this way of separation, this painful level, and to move into a place that feels good, where there's love and happiness and joy, all the things that you have, the deepest desires that are in your heart, and you know what they are.
Let me ask this question: are we all part of everything? Now, we say that we're all part of everything, but what in the heck does that mean? Does that mean that there is a cell that is actually identical to my body that mirrors Diane or Shirley? Is that true for all of us? What if there's a piece of me inside every one of you, and there's a piece of you inside me? I guess that's what that means when they say we're all part of everything. Is it possible that we have the ability to feel everything? We certainly couldn't do that if we wanted you to feel like me. And that's usually the way we perceive things. I believe it's possible that we as a collective can come together and recognize each other. Now, many of you have been to classes and they call that soulmates. The time you recognize somebody and you knew that person was your soulmate, I'm saying to you that we're all soulmates. How many of you have looked for soulmates and finally got that person to hold still long enough to marry them or be with them, or whatever they told you was going to happen when you found that soulmate? Our soulmates are probably the squirreliest things we ever found. Have we as humans created different consciousness based on our fears, worries, and concerns? Is there a collective consciousness of cancer? Have we created collective consciousness of war? What I believe we need to do is to show where balance is, or 0 point, in that collective so it can take and change. I believe you picked your parents because they had the energetics you needed to start you off into your lessons. We pick some dillies, don't we? But just think about it. They have been the absolute best teacher for what you've come to find out within yourself, and eventually has empowered you. Now, if we're part of everything, going back to that concept is so large in most cases, that sounds nice, but we really can't get a grasp on what that means. Is it possible that all of us are connected, and as one of us takes a different step, that we all shift? Is it possible that all of us are starting to become aware of each other, moving into the moment, and anyone out of time is now being pushed into the no-time place, where everything is collapsing into this space? We see miracles so often, we don't even think about it any longer. Do you really believe in miracles? Do you really know it's going to happen? And that's what we practice all the time. And in that space, anything can happen. Is there a part of yourself that's actually learning from what you're doing physically? what we hear over and over, that 90% of us is not present at this time. That's the number. So what we believe is ascension is what we're doing. We're going to ascend, bring that part of us back. How are we going to leave until we totally hear? If you haven't fully experienced love and been unconditional with yourself completely and mastered Christ or more, you're telling me you're going to leave and you're going to ascend. That's possible. But what if, by becoming conscious, you could bring all of your collective self and every other dimension in reality here and be focused and be present? Would we want to leave? And would this world change?
Of all the things that I do, research into psychoacoustics, research into psychophysiology, coordinating research with other researchers, composing and teaching, this is the one thing that is dearest to my heart. And I am thrilled to be able to share it with you tonight.
The science of compassion is the gift. It's the tool in our lives that allows us to switch the genetic codes in our bodies for graceful transition, for a graceful phase transition. And there is another path. And there's another path that was left to you and I through the mystery schools, through the wisdom of the ancient mystery schools. The Egyptian mystery schools, the Essene traditions, the Essene mystery schools, for example. And there is a path that talks about things like this. Look at some of these quotes. Lo, I tell you a mystery in those days, in the days of this shift. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. Man is in the process of changing to forms of light that are not of this world. Ye shall never endure the pains of death. Ye shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye from mortality to immortality. What do those things mean? Without the context of what you and I are doing in here right now, what we'll be doing throughout this week, these are mysterious, nebulous concepts that have not been tremendously meaningful to us in the past. Now, through the context that are being developed, through the science of our memory and our truth, you and I are given the gift, the opportunity of emotion and the opportunity of feeling. And in emotion and in feeling, we have the opportunity to mirror to one another and to remind ourselves of the science and the gift of compassion. And it is in compassion that you and I will carry one another through this time that the ancients called the shift of the ages. That is tremendously exciting because you and I are holographic in nature. Our awareness, our feelings, our emotions, our consciousness is holographic in nature. What that means is it does not take many people to make change in the whole. What it is that you choose to have in your life, you must become. Compassion is not something that may be done. You cannot do compassion. In a world where we are conditioned to do things out here, what words do I offer to you to describe something that you must become? You must become compassion. You and I were born into a world of polarity, and we were born into the patterns of every individual who has ever been born before us in this cycle of experience. We were born genetically plugged into predetermined patterns of perception. You and I are consenting to remembering what that means in our lives. So what that means is in a world that in the past has learned to hate, in a world that in the past has learned to fear, you and I have the opportunity to transcend hate and fear while we still live in the hate and the fear. And the part that's really exciting to me is that transcendence is not making hate and fear go away. It's redefining what those patterns mean to our lives. Redefining fear in your life. Because the truth is this man did not die. He resurrected. The gift that was left by this man with the holographic model in mind. The gift is his life. His gift is in his life. He lived a truth. He anchored it in the grids among us while he was here. If one person lives that truth and anchors it in the grids, it's there for everyone to some degree. I believe that among many examples that this man that we call Jesus of Nazareth, the many examples that he left for us, the example of his life becoming a living bridge for those who would have the wisdom and the courage to follow in the years that were yet to come. You have the same opportunity in your lives today. You are literally becoming the living bridges for those that you hold most dear and those that you care about, those that you love and are learning to love and remembering to love in vast and new ways.
My choice is to share with you a technology that connects us with our Creator inside and allows what we're saying to happen. Literally, this language resides inside of our DNA resonance. It's in our heart. I love that. Our 7-layer oscillating crystalline. That's a whole new way to see the heart, yeah? What we say we get. Decree, speak with feeling. To decree a thing thus, and it shall be established unto you. By your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned. A man, a woman who offendeth not in word, the same as a perfect man or woman, and able to bridle or control the whole body. Just like you control the tongue of a horse, you guide the horse. So if this is true, if it's true, words have tremendous power. I am, I'll show you what this is. I is God. M is action. I am, how's that? You immediately bring God in action right here. Is that cool? Yes. I am here. Now I took care of space, yes? Because I'm here. I am here. The next one is so cool. Because. Need we say more? By the way, your subconscious listens to every word you say as if it's got juice to it, because it does, and it brings it about. If you say, I can't, your subconscious says, okay. If you go, I don't know, it says, okay. If you say, I don't have enough money, it says, okay. If you walk up to someone and say, I want your help, what it does is it elicits, interacts with, draws forth, and resonates with their wants. This is consciousness, yes? Our voice passes across our lungs and comes through our lungs, yes? And goes across, vibrates the thyroid, the parathyroid, the heart, the will, the thyroid, thymus, pancreas, and adrenals, among other things, yes? Resonates, comes across the throat, yes? Right across the, yeah? Across our teeth. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. So in our class, we just get to the point where we let our heart speak. So enter this in your body. I am fully present. And use an affirmation that works for you. Mine is, God is speaking through me now. So say it again. Let it resonate. God is speaking through me now. In perfect divine order.
The last wake-up call that I want to talk about, which is what I really want to work with us tonight, is through sound and how I discovered that sound could activate consciousness. And sound has been used for thousands of years in many different traditions as a means to open consciousness and as a means to shift it. This is a neural map, and a neural map is a computerized EEG. And what you do is you put like a swimsuit cap, like a Speedo cap on your head, and it has little electrodes. And the computer knows where each electrode is, and it tells you on the neural map where the brain activity is. And what this neural map is measuring is beta, which is our normal waking state, although that's changing. I think Greg's going to have more to say about that. Alpha, which is the relaxed state, and then theta. So what this basically shows here, from a scientific standpoint, is that it is unquestionable that sound can change brain state, brain activity. And from a scientific standpoint, this is unquestionable. And what's interesting with this particular tape is that right here, that little blue thing, this is in the maximum range of theta. That means that this point in the cerebral cortex is like cranking it. It's rocking and rolling in the theta range. And theta range is the doorway to mystical experience. It's in terms of neurology. And guess where that point is? The crown chakra, described by yogis thousands of years ago. So sound has the ability, and science has fully documented that it can change consciousness and awareness.
The fastest way that each one of us can heal ourselves completely is if all of a sudden Jesus Christ, Buddha, or the most spiritual person in the whole world was to stand here and you would go, oh, that's what it feels like. And you'd change just like that. Because I believe what Christ was sharing with us, many, many things, but also what Christ was sharing with us, is he left us a gate, and all we had to do is to be that, and we could access that Christ grid, and to bring that energy and to be it. How many of us have looked any farther than the cross? How many of you have looked above the cross? And this is what the gate looks like. It would be straight across, just like the cross would be if we were looking down on it. And I believe what happened at that moment, when the last breath, he pivoted as he left his body, and he went like that, and this was the gate.
The earth is in an entirely different state of awareness now. Right now, our science thinks if you want to make something really strong, you make it thick. But higher levels of consciousness know that if you want to make something strong, you make it extremely pure and very thin. And the thinner you can make it, the stronger it will be. The Earth did. She changed the nature of this grid in such a way that it went to 3 sols thick. And it became extremely strong. Feel the love for all life everywhere. You will feel her love come back to you, into your heart. She loves you so much. You're now connected to Mother Earth and Father Sky in a very tangible, real way. When a human being reaches this place, you are recognized throughout all life. And what's coming down through that tube and up through that tube into your heart is the consciousness of all life everywhere. That's another way of saying God as we know it.
I used to be here to heal the planet. Now I realize I'm here to have a loving, intimate relationship with my wife and my daughters and my team and my family. And one of the things you've got to learn about this is the language of our hearts. And the words, my words, that I speak from my heart happen instantly. If you've ever been with a pure Hopi consciousness, they love this earth so much that they cannot separate themselves from it. They would never pollute, because they're one that wouldn't pollute their own body. We have the potential. Each one of us knows what it takes to. Each one of us right here is enough to completely transform this planet with ease.
There's a short story that I choose to share with you. A story that researchers released about 1.5 years ago regarding the migratory patterns of geese. Some of you may have heard this. And in the interest of time, I will not go through the entire story. What they discovered was that geese travel as tribes, and especially when they migrate, they discovered that as the geese fly together toward a common goal, a common destination, that in flying together, they add 71% greater capacity to their efforts than if they were to try to fly alone. And I thought that was really interesting, and as I read through the articles, I was deeply, deeply touched by the very last portion of the article. And this is something I did not know about geese at the time. And it says, as geese are flying together, if anything should happen to anyone, anywhere in the flock, if they're hit by a hunter, they become ill or they're tired, and they drop away from the flock and they fall behind, never, never, never do they go alone. And always, 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 2 other geese will drop out with them and they will stay with them. until the time that they either pass away or have the strength to find their tribes again. Because in my heart, I see a time where everyone has made it through whatever we're going through in this moment. We all go together. No one is left behind. And I believe we can learn a lot from those geese. So as you live your lives in the wisdom of whatever this week has meant to you, and you see those of us who have fallen away, please take time to be with them in whatever way you can, and whatever that means to you, in your wisdom, because they're a part of us. No one's left behind.